To check out your Sunday morning papers, my guests this morning are ENCA reporter Malungelo Booi and Europe correspondent Kevin Ozebek. Before we chat to them, let's just sift through what the front pages are carrying, starting with the City Press, leading with ANC's shady plan to save VBS. Political motives cited in an alleged bid by the top six to shield guilty parties. Leading also with SA Mourn's tragic rise and fall of Pro, and of course we learned this week of the tragic passing of Linda Pro Kid Mkhize, a legend in his own right in the hip-hop space here in South Africa. And of course, on a bit of a lighter note, there was fun that was had at Opikopi this weekend as well, so you can pick up your copy of the City Press that leads with that. The Sunday Times leading with State Attorney's 80 billion rand scam. Government lawyers, private firms collude to loot public purse. Some shocking amounts that are also mentioned in this article. We'll get straight into it with my guests in a moment. And get this, Durban Doc was dad to at least 5 dibblings, and the term dibblings referring to donor sperm siblings. This is the pioneering fertility doctor who fathered at least 5 of the children conceived at his Durban clinic in the 1950s and 60s. Such a fascinating read, that one. And state bailouts for Sanral, SAA, SABC. Again, the state is planning a 59 billion rand bailout of entities in financial distress, including the South African National Roads Agency, SAA, as well as the SABC, as we mentioned. Taking a look at the Sunday Independent, 580 million rand broadband fiasco. LTech, SMME's tender squabble threatens to roll out. Also leading with outrage over proposed tobacco bill. Of course, reaction to that news coming through thick and fast. Let's reintroduce our guests in studio this morning. Gentlemen, Kevin, Malu, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with this contentious tobacco bill. The reaction to that here in South Africa has been so mixed. A lot of people welcoming this, but a lot of people also saying, listen, this is a lucrative industry. What do you expect us to do?
In fact, when you read the story in the Sunday Independent, they also spoke to the informal traders, Dudu. I mean, these are the people that are saying that if this bill goes ahead, we will lose our livelihoods because a third of our profits comes from it. And we're chatting off air saying that perhaps people will then have to find innovative way of making money because at the end of the day, tobacco is problematic health-wise. You know what I mean? But but I think also it'd be interesting to hear what other nations around the world are doing in dealing with this problem.
And that's it. Hey, Kevin, you guys have taken the lead on this. One can't imagine that it was easy, but it has been done. Tell us about how it was done. Perhaps the implementation will help in easing people's, anxiety around it.
So, Dudu, just a few years ago, the EU rolled out all these tougher measures to try to curb the amount of smoking. In Europe, the smoking rate is pretty high. In France, I believe, among young people, it's around 25%. And the argument is non-smokers pay for that in taxes because it's social health care. And this is the same argument that's happening in South Africa, that's already happened in Europe, and that has already happened in the US. And it always goes back to the question of rights. What are your rights as a smoker? What are your rights as a non-smoker, right?
Sure.
Like, if you're smoking, I'm agitated by that as a non-smoker, but also if I'm outside, don't I have the right to light up a cigarette? What's interesting, though, is, especially if you look at just France, because that was one of the countries in Europe with the highest smoking rates, well, the data is starting to show that the measures that the EU has put forward are actually starting to work there. Last year in 2017, about 1 million people quit smoking in France. In France, it's kind of synonymous with the cigarette. You'll see a lot of people lighting up in Paris. But what the EU did is they mandated plain packaging, which is part of the proposal here in South Africa. Also on the cigarette packaging, there's photos of tarred lungs, sick children.
See the extent of damage.
Very graphic images,
Very graphic images. Also, though, what they've done in Europe, which I haven't seen being done here is, at least with this proposal, is they've raised the prices. So for a lot of people, it's becoming too expensive to smoke.
In fact, one of the So it's going to be interesting what the submissions people make on this already, if it's creating this outrage. So you can sort of like expect a whole lot of that mud slinging, if you want, with people saying that already you will take us out of business
100%.
with this proposal.
What will be more interesting to see is what happens between legislation and implementation, whether people will stop selling loose cigarettes, because that's very famous, and that's also like a quick, way of
and
also
it's
making
very
business.
common in our township spaces.
Yeah,
Also when you go downtown, Johannesburg or any other.
Or you go into a building and there's someone
somebody
standing there, you
yeah.
can get one. Okay, let's just take a short break. We're back with more, taking a look at your morning papers. Do stay with us.
Funerals. When the time comes, and it will come, the last thing your family should have to worry about is money. Rest assured, all clientele funeral plans pay out within 24 hours. We even send 200 Rand airtime when you claim.
Clientele help me to bury my loved ones with dignity.
It's affordable. We have individual and family plans available. We pay out up to 100,000 Rand per member. You can cover up to 13 people on one plan. Plans include grocery, transport, and unveiling benefits.
If you choose our ultimate plan, we will pay all your premiums back.
Yes, all your premiums paid back on top of your cover amount.
Clientele life.
Clientele.
Clientele, ligama endilithembileyo.
Thank you, clientele.
SMS dignity to 31042 and we'll call you back.
Welcome back. We continue taking a look at what your Sunday morning papers are carrying for you. I'm joined in studio by ENCA's Malungelo Booi, as well as our Europe correspondent, Kevin Ozebek. Right, let's get back to what the Sunday Times is carrying, a story by Kanita Hunter here. State attorney's 80 billion Rand scam. This details how state lawyers are colluding with unscrupulous lawyers who bring about claims but balloon the prices. And it seems like the Department of Health is the one that is being milked the most.
Hey, this is a problem. Corruption is not something new, though, in this country. It's something that we've become so... we know it very well. We're used to it. So this story by Juanita talks about how, as you said, how the state attorneys are colluding with private lawyers to milk government of billions of rands. But it seems as if now that officials have started to sort of like put a halt into this. The story is so disturbing to Duzile that in the Eastern Cape seems to be the province where some of these claims come from, where this scam had also targeted Limpopo, for example. There's a claim which the Minister of Health saying that there was one single claim of about 70 million Rand, and that the MEC of Health in that province actually didn't know about this claim whatsoever, and the Minister then says he knew then something was also wrong. But also there's a story of a patient that claimed to have cerebral palsy, and it was found that that person actually did not have that condition whatsoever. And when they went through the hospital records, and that person was claiming about 20 million Rand.
Also, the amounts are just so absurd. Who wakes up in the morning and you're like, actually, today I'm going to get 70 billion Rand for something that I don't even have. But Kevin, sorry, Malu, let's get into this story as well. Unfortunately, we are really, really tight for time. On a lighter note, if you like, insects being used to make ice cream. We've always heard of the benefits of eating insects, you know, locusts with the protein value, and now worms.
No, I never did that.
Worms are being used for ice cream.
So there's a story in the city press this morning about a Cape Town company that's using insect milk. They say it's got a few benefits to it. A, it's environmentally friendly, because cows take up a lot of land. They need a lot of inputs. You need a lot of grass, a lot of oats, a lot of water for all of that. This is, oh, here it is. The headline is, "There's a fly in my ice cream," no kidding. And I found this really interesting. So I'm a little lactose intolerant. My tummy gets a little upset when I drink cow's milk.
We believe you.
But I don't think I could go for insect milk. Could you guys in that coffee this morning?
I'd try that. I would try that. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. If it's got like some nutritional value, let's get into it. Malu, let's come back to what the Sunday Times is also carrying. A story by Thabo Mokone and Caiphus Hwasana. State bailouts for Sanral, SAA and SABC to the tune of 59 billion rand once again.
When will this stop? When are we going to stop bailing out these state-owned enterprises? I don't understand. I mean, where's the value for my money, your money at home on these? Sanral, the article is actually depressing. This issue came out in the ANC Lekgotla that these state enterprises have got to be bailed out so that they don't default on their loans and also that they don't collapse entirely. One of the issues with Sanral, we know that it's the e-tolls here in Gauteng. Most of their bill comes from that because people in this province are refusing to pay e-tolls. You know?
That's what people are saying.
No, I was not part of the consultation on that. But now government is planning to bail them out, and I suppose they have to do what they have to do. But at the end of the day, though, they need to justify why do we keep on bailing out these enterprises.
Right. Kevin, finally, there is an article also in the Sunday Times about tips for when you go for an interview. You would think that we know, ne? But it's not always obvious.
You would think it's timely, though, with the unemployment rate rising here, but it goes over that dreaded question, what are your weaknesses? We've all been on a job interview.
Tell us about yourself.
We've all been asked that, and you're like, your stomach cringes a little bit because what do you say? And the advice from this author is give something you're working on and then also include in this job interview strategies that you're using, that you're enacting to try to get over that deficiency. So, for example, if you're a reporter, you know what, my writing could be better. Well, I'm reading tips to make my writing more creative. So that's the advice for all the job seekers out there.
And tomorrow is a Monday, so there's someone who's waking up to go for a job interview. So it's a handy tip.
I also think there's nothing wrong with being assertive. You're going into that interview and be yourself.
Confidence is everything, right?
Confidence, baby. Confidence.
That's it.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And that's a wrap of your Sunday morning newspapers. Malungelo Booi and Kevin, our Europe correspondent. We take a short break now. When Weekend Wake Up continues, we have another special treat for you. You don't want to miss this. Do stay with us.